Well, good morning. It is December the 1st, 2025, and straight from the highly caffeinated studio, this is According to Willie B., and I am your host for the next half hour or so. Today is part 9 of the Great BFF trip, and we are going to finish up talking about Boston, Massachusetts. Now, I've had a lot of emails talking about, okay, if this wraps up the trip, what's part 10 about? So I want to make sure that I cover this. For those that didn't catch it from the last episode, part 10 will be about what it costs to do this massive 10-day road trip. We're going to look at cost of fuel, cost of mileage, cost of rental cars, cost of hotels on average. So there'll be a lot of cost there for you to consider when you do a road trip. So you got to always make sure that you plan for the unplanned. Let me just say that, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Right now, we're going to jump into the rest of Boston. We got quite a bit to cover, but I think I can get it all in. First of all, you know me, I say it at the end of every show, don't forget to caffeinate and conquer. It's very important. Now, I could not start, actually none of us could start the final day in Boston and the final day of this trip without having some coffee. And we found a very unique coffee shop, and I want to call them out because it was just such a cool little eclectic coffee shop that it was totally unexpected, and it's called Farmer's Horse Coffee. That's the only word salad you get today. I'm not on a diet, so we're not having word salad. But Farmer's Horse Coffee. It was just this really unexpected local vibe coffee shop. You know, sometimes when you travel and you go into small coffee shops, they don't reflect, if you will, the local, kind of the local culture, local vibe kind of thing. But Farmer's Horse Coffee really was almost like a huge mirror on the sidewalk that reflected so much about Boston, Massachusetts, and the people that lived in that area. Hat is off to them for doing this because that's not an easy thing to capture. And they were spot on. I actually, for a few minutes, felt like a local. I didn't really sound like a local, but I felt like a local. So we'll just leave it at that. But the coffee was really good. They had a lot of pastries, a lot of breakfast sandwiches. Breakfast sandwiches were on point. The bagels, I mean, it was just all fresh ingredients, and it was really a really special start to the day. So Farmer's Horse Coffee was one of my favorite coffee houses out of the entire trip. The other one being the New York bakery that had the coffee was just absolutely out of this world. But those were my two favorite coffee places out of the entire trip. And you know, like I said, coffee's extremely important. So we get our coffee, we get our breakfast down, and we got one day. We got one day to see it all and do it all. And you're not going to get it done. You can try, but you won't make it. But you got to kind of cover the stuff you want to cover. What's your bucket list while you're in that town? And so, you know, we did want to check out the Quincy Market and the Faneuil Hall. They're kind of right next to each other. And so it's like this mega market put together. It's all interior, and one part of it is food, so you can grab any kind of food that you could possibly imagine, and then the other part of it is, your gift shops, your touristy stuff like that. But let me tell you about Quincy Market, because I want to paint you a picture, because you got to understand this was just not a regular food hall. Let's just put it as is the same as the AKA Hunger Games of snacking. The second I walked in, I got hit with 47 different food smells and 12 vendors shouting, "Try this." I felt like I was in an Italian grandma's kitchen. And I'm like on a game show, who wants to be bloated today? Because it's just, you can only eat so much. I started out with a pretzel sample, and it went sideways from there. But hey, Quincy Market doesn't feed you; they ambush you. But it is a cool experience. You have to walk through there, even if you're not hungry. Let me know how it works out if you're not hungry, how much you ate when you come out the other end. Because I promise you, it will be way more than you anticipated. There's also, I'm going to go ahead and mention while we're talking about the markets, there is the Boston Public Market. And I got excited because when I was back in couple months ago, when we were back in Philadelphia, there's the Reading Terminal Market. And so I was thinking that this Boston Public Market was the same thing. And it kind of was, but it's on a way smaller scale. But it was still cool. But if you've ever been to the Reading Market, just understand it's not going to be on that level of magnitude. It's not going to be that many vendors. I would say probably a tenth the amount. If somebody's been to both and wants to correct me on that, you can. But I just felt like it was immensely smaller. Still cool, very clean, very, well thought out, but it was definitely smaller. But doesn't make it disappointing. It just was a lot smaller when I was expecting something on the scale of the Reading Terminal Market. So we knew that we wanted to hit the Freedom Trail in the North End, because the North End, as you know, is the Italian end, where they have the Mike's Pastry, modern pastry, where they have the great cannoli war, if you will. Who's got the best cannoli? And I still can't answer that question because the line at Modern Pastry was so immensely long, there was no way that we had time for it on that day. So when I go back to Boston, I'm going to try both, and I'll let you know which one I think is better. I have to say, we did go to Mike's Pastry, and it was packed as well, but nowhere near the amount that Modern Pastry was. But I had no complaints whatsoever out of the cannolis and the pastries that we got from Mike's Pastry. They were absolutely on point. As a matter of fact, because we were driving home, we brought some of them home. We have them in an ice chest and brought some home, and I ate them a couple of days later, and they were still just as good as the day that we got them. So if Modern Pastry is better than that, then wow, I definitely need to go ahead and start booking my trip to go back to Boston, because it was on point. Everything that we had in the Italian North End to eat, to drink, everything was just really cool. I love the area. I could spend an entire day just in that one area, and because we didn't, like I said, we were trying to make sure that we kind of did a snapshot appearance. I cannot talk today. A snapshot appearance in each of the areas that we really wanted to do. And it's because we had kind of lost a few hours from the day before, because, we let Portland borrow some time. And I'm telling you, we ran short. So I can just about guess if we were to do a trip like this again, of where we would spend the most of our time. And we'll talk about that in episode 10 about any kind of regrets or anything that we had, which I don't really think we had regrets. Like in Boston, we missed the things that we missed. We missed going to Fenway Park, which was not a major disappointment, but it would have been nice just to have that photo op. And so again, the snapshot appearance. I'm not even going to try to say that again. Boston Harbor. There, you could spend a half a day or better in Boston Harbor alone, and we didn't even make it to Boston Harbor. So, a Boston Public Library, that's another one you could have spent a couple hours in, just because of the immense size of it, checking out, because there's so much history in Boston, and you really, even if you're not a big history buff, there are places in the U.S. like Boston that there's so much history that is really cool and a big part of our lives, that it's really cool to say, hey, I've been there. I saw that. I've seen the Statue of Liberty. I stood there beside it. There's a lot of things like that in the U.S. that we really need to go see, because it just doesn't do it justice to see it on TV or anything like that. So we covered that. The Freedom Trail. We covered a small portion of it because again we were trying to get that little bit of experience all over Boston. Like for instance, Beacon Hill. We dragged our food coma bodies over to Beacon Hill, but I'm gonna tell you, their sidewalks are basically like scenic death traps. I mean, don't get me wrong, Beacon Hill is one of the most expensive areas to live in Boston. And it's absolutely phenomenally gorgeous. It's like movie set, like you don't belong there. Yeah, your credit cards will turn over in their grave when you walk in that area because they're like, I'm not being a part of this. But it is just an unreal historical place to walk through. Just understand that everything is uphill, even downhill is uphill. I've said that before. But you got the cobblestones that are just looking at you going, yeah, you're a tourist. I bet I can make you do a face plant. I did not. I did not fall. Stumbled a few times, yes, but did not fall. But those cobblestones, man, there. And if you watch the locals, man, they glide across those things like they're on ice skates. But, I guess if you walked it every day, you get used to it. But, wow. So, but, it was just such a beautiful area. Boston, Massachusetts is an absolutely phenomenal place to visit. I just wish that we had one more day. And I think no matter how many days we had, I think we would have still said, man, if we just had one more day in all the areas that we went to, just to be perfectly honest. Now, I want to talk about where we had lunch because, wow, me as a foodie, I'm going to see if I can paint you a picture of the food that we had. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know that I'll ever find food that will top Inoteca Maria in New York. I don't think it exists. However, when you go to the North End, the Italian district in Boston, Massachusetts, there is a place called Carmelina's, and that will actually be coming out on Culinary Highway this week. But this is let me just say, it's the holy grail of Italian food in Boston. I kid you not. This restaurant didn't just serve me food, it served me a purpose. The pasta came out, looked like it had been handcrafted by angels. I did not even kidding. Not only just regular angels, but angels who specialize in carbohydrates. One bite, and I ascended, and I saw my ancestors. They were like, save room for dessert. And I'm like, yeah, that did not happen with any of us. We did not have dessert there. See, I've got to go back to have dessert so I can come back and tell you about the desserts. The portions were so massive. I mean, you really needed your whole family. To give you a clue, just so you can understand, they don't serve you on a plate or a platter. No, it's served in the skillet that they cooked it in. I mean... Talk about bellying up to the trough. I mean, they're serving me in a skillet. It's like, I could just see some Italian grandma like sitting down at a table and just putting the entire pot of Sunday gravy in front of you. That's kind of what it felt like. But the ingredients were just so fresh, and so all the flavors just came together for this harmonious meal from heaven. I'm actually running out of words because it was one of the best meal experiences that I've had. And the food is, and I'm not even a big Italian food person because to me, Italian food is spaghetti or pizza. And lasagna, if it's cooked by true Italians, that I've learned that your average American style lasagna, yeah, I don't want no part of that. But if it is a truly Italian cooked lasagna, yeah, I will show no shame. I will eat that pasta, that lasagna, like I don't even know. I probably shouldn't paint a picture there because it would not be pretty. And then you would just walk off and judge me. But hey, I left that place in a blissful carb haze, and I was mumbling words that Italian words that I definitely made up. So if you ever hear me mumbling fake Italian words, you know that I'm talking about the Carmelinas, because it was absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, it's a small restaurant, but they stay packed. You got to stand in line to get in there. Matter of fact, we stood in line long enough that I had time to go down to Mike's Pastry. So there's that. Don't judge me. But I'm gonna tell you, it was cool. So here we are. Now we've spent another hour down in the Italian North End. I bought me a couple of T-shirts down there. One of my favorite from the Italian area was "Don't be a stunad," which basically don't be an idiot. But I wear the shirt well. That's all I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna leave that there. So we needed to cover ground because we've got less than an afternoon left. And as you know, with the time change, the sun starts sinking around, I don't know, noon, it seemed like. So we had to get the day in. So we grabbed a hop-on, hop-off tour bus. And we basically rode that for a couple of hours because we were able to see a lot of Boston that we otherwise would have missed out on. And my missed out list would have been a way longer than what it is. We got to go see the Granary Burying Grounds, which was established in 1630. Now, to give you a clue of how long ago that was, two of the people that are buried there is Paul Revere and John Hancock. I tell you what, my words are just word salad doesn't even cover it. It's almost like a word lasagna, because I'm layering them, not necessarily in the right layers, but they're definitely layered. But yeah, Paul Revere and John Hancock both are buried there, and so that, talk about eye-opening. That's really cool. So we stopped there for a moment, and we were able to kind of soak it all in. But we were able to see, you got Bunker Hill Monument, you've got the Harvard University, you've got, there was just the Massachusetts State House. I think you could literally spend a week in Boston. Now, understand, when you leave Boston after being there for a week, you're going to talk funny and you're not going to be able to walk because you're going to have gained so much weight. So just be in mind that maybe Boston, Massachusetts is like Las Vegas. You shouldn't spend more than 2 days there. There, I said it, and I'm not going to take it back. But we did. I think we were all glad to get off of our feet for a little bit. So letting someone else do the driving and do the talking was a great, kind of a break for us, because you're coming up on the end of a 10-day trip, and as much stuff as we did, I don't think any of us would lie and say, "Oh no, I wasn't tired at all. I was ready for another 2 or 3 days." I think we were about touristed out, if there is such a word. See, I'm making up words all alone, but I think we were on the fine line of becoming a tourist to a traveler. Not that I think there's really any difference, but hey, probably just the color of your suitcase, and or maybe the size of your suitcase. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I digress. I'm just making up words here. But I will say that after we had a great afternoon, we just kind of chilled and kind of walked around the area back over there. There's a huge open market, like a big produce market right there by the Union Street Oyster House, and there's this huge produce market, and it's really cool to just kind of walk through there and see, kind of see how the prices were on the end. Man, it would be so cool to have that here at home. We have one, but not like this. It's like all the farmers came in and they got up under all these tents and just had all of their produce out there, and it was just really fresh and really smelled so good. The smells of that open market were just amazing. So that's one of the things that I've learned by traveling up in the Northeast is, we have things here at home. Like in Houston, there's a farmer's market. There's a farmer's market here in Raleigh, North Carolina. But they're nothing like the Boston Public Market, the open farmers markets, the Reading Terminal Market. None of these things. I'm just like, man, it would be so cool if every state, or at least the state I live in, would have something like this. But it was really cool to experience those things. So by this time, we're getting into late evening, and we all had an early day because they had to fly back the next day, and then we were driving back to North Carolina. So we both had a full day of travel ahead of us. And yes, I did drive it all the way back home, no hotel room. So we'll talk about that next week. But I did want to mention where we had dinner right by our hotel apartment kind of thing that we stayed in, a Copley House. There was a place called Five Horses Tavern. Now, it's funny that we started the day at Farmer's Horse Coffee, and then we finished our day at Five Horses Tavern. I don't know if one of those horses were the farmers or not, but I will say their food was absolutely great. They had these pizzas, like these little individual pizzas. Man, the crust was just really good. They had burgers. I mean, they had everything that my heart desires. And the Five Horses Tavern was a really good choice for a dinner spot. And it was just right around the corner, maybe a 3 or 4 minute walk from our hotel. And that was the thing is, Boston is it's big. It's a big city. But everything that you want to go see and do, you can pretty much walk to most of the things that you want to go see and do. Other than like Fenway Park, you kind of have to take an Uber over there. So there are some things that you but if you like to walk, if you're not scared of walking, man, Boston, it'll serve you up some cardio. Go with those carbohydrates. I promise you not. I promise you. But it was very enjoyable. So somebody asked me the other day, so what was and he grew up in Boston. He said, all right, Will, he said, so really and truly, what was your honest opinion of Boston? And I thought for a moment, and I said, it's energetic, or at least you need to be energetic. I said, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. It's judgmental. It's delicious. Should have used delicious first. And it will 100% send you home with sore feet, a full stomach, and way too many receipts. And I said, in all honesty, I'd do it again tomorrow. And I plan on it. I plan on going back to Boston. I plan on going back to Portland, Maine. There's some more lobster rolls there I think that I need to go eat. But this wound up that trip for us. We went back to the hotel, and we kind of sit and just kumbaya for a little bit over everything that we had done, and it was kind of a sad moment knowing that we all had to make our trek back home the next day, and all of us had to go back to work. But you know what? That's where the reality sits in. That's why you have to have vacations so that you can escape from the reality. Man, I tell you what, I am. My word salads today have been way over the limit. So the next podcast I do next week, I'm not allowed to have any word salads because I've used the whole month's worth up right here in this one. And I do apologize, but I know you guys still hang in there. I think you understand where I'm coming from. So I like to just keep it real. I like to keep it live. I don't like to have it where it's all scripted. I tried doing a couple kind of scripted when I first started, and if you go back and listen to the first few, you can actually kind of tell that some of them were a little bit not totally scripted, but I was going off of a lot of notes. And I've really had a lot of positive feedback since I started just doing them off the cuff. Sometimes I forget things. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. Sometimes I have word salads. But, I want it to come from the heart when I talk to you guys about this travel, because I want you to get a true sense of what I experience, because that's why the show is called According to Willie B, because according to Willie B, this is what I experience, live, unfiltered, uncut. So with that, I will tell you my one true reminder to you is do not forget to caffeinate and conquer. And I will see you again right here behind this big old mic from the highly caffeinated studio next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.